Hello everyone, my name is Owen Darling, and today I'm going to be showing you my impression of the 43rd Infantry Division, 172nd Infantry Regiment, 1st Battalion, Able Company. Now, a little bit of history about the 43rd Division. They were a National Guard unit that comprised of 4 National Guard regiments, being the 102nd from Connecticut, the 103rd from Maine, the 169th that was also from Connecticut, and the 172nd from Vermont. Like I said, it was a National Guard unit. However, on February 18th, 1941, under Executive Order 8633, they were issued into federal service. So with that happening, they were sent first to Camp Blanding, Florida, and from Camp Blanding, Florida, they went to Camp Shelby, Mississippi, where the duration of their training was. And from Camp Shelby, Mississippi, they were sent to Fort Ord, California, to be shipped off to the Pacific. Now, the 172nd Infantry Regiment, the regiment I portray, was on a ship called the Calvin Coolidge. And when it was coming into an island called New Caledonia and docking in a port called Espiritu Santo, it actually hit a friendly naval mine and sank. So the entire regiment was out of commission for a good period of time. By the time they were back into service, they were mainly serving occupation duty in Guadalcanal. Now, their first real combat they saw, the 43rd in general, was in New Georgia, so that's farther north in the Solomon Islands. Their main objective was to take an airfield in what was called Munda. And from New Georgia, they went into some more northern Solomon Island area, and then from there, New Guinea, and of course, the Philippine Liberation Campaign was a major campaign that the 43rd took part in. They landed in Luzon, and once the atomic bombs were dropped, some units of the 43rd would go to Japan for occupation duty, while others were able to go home. That's just a brief history. Now let's get into the uniforms. Alright, so starting on the left here, I have my Class A dress uniform. This was actually my great-grandfather's. His name right here is Thomas Root, and he was in the 172nd from Vermont, so these are his distinctive unit insignias. And then of course one on the garrison cap as well. This is an original post-exchange variant of the garrison cap. It's not like the enlisted one. Here you have the 43rd Division insignia, and then the 2 rank insignias, Private First Class, his ruptured duck discharge patch, branch insignia being a Company A of infantry, and then the U.S. insignia here. Over here you have his service stripes, so in total he spent 3 years overseas, and then he had a total of 3 years of military service. And then of course, underneath this, when I'm wearing this uniform, I'd be wearing my wool shirt, sort of like a mid-war to late war wool tie. And then I've got some original wool trousers as well. These are a later variant that have the gas flap. And then over here, I have my 1st pattern HBT uniform. So during the time of New Georgia, this is what most infantry soldiers would have been offered in the Pacific. Sometimes you see officers or people of specialty roles wearing the camouflage uniforms, but general infantry would be wearing the 1st patterns. So up here at the top, I have the laundry number right here. When I show you the dog tags, you'll see that that matches up. And then in the pockets, there's just some personal items. I have some V-mail, I think a rosary, and some candy and other stuff, some gum there. And of course, some features of the 1st pattern: the larger cuff, the gusseted armpit, this waist right here with the waist adjusters. And then here are my 1st pattern trousers. I have my canvas belt right here, but these were just cut as a very standard pant. They didn't really have a good combat uniform at the time. They wouldn't have had any side pockets. All they really have is this open pocket here, a watch pocket, and then 2 pockets in the back. I also have the laundry number here. These are both reproductions from Soldier of Fortune. They're basically the only place you can get 1st pattern HBTs. So that basically covers my uniforms. Now I'll get all my equipment out and show you that. Alright, so now for the equipment. Starting off down here, I have my basic web setup, When you look at original photos of guys in the Pacific, specifically the 43rd, their web setups aren't very heavy, especially as they start to move inland. There's just less and less that they need to carry, and of course that they'd want to carry, just because, you know, it's a hot environment, and being bogged down by all that stuff, it affects your combat effectiveness. Here, the 10-cell cartridge belt. Each one has an M-block inside with blank rounds. This specific belt is 43 dated. Moving over here, I have my M42 first aid pouch. At some point, I'll swap this out with the M1910 or the smaller M1924, due to the fact that this, you know, would have just been issued in the time frame that I portray, which is June of 1943. So to have this, it doesn't really make too much sense. Moving over, I have two metal top canteens, just because at the time this is what they had. It's very clear to tell in original photos that they have the metal top ones. This one has a rear seam right here, making it an older canteen cover, and then this one has a side seam, but it still has the single tab. Opening this up here, you have the cup and canteen. The canteen is 1918 dated, AGM company. The cup is 1943 dated, also AGM company. And then this one is a mid-World War I canteen. It's got no seam, so that's one of the early spun ones, but it still has the rounded top, so mid-war. Moving over here, I have two sets of dog tags, both from my great-grandfather. These ones are a much earlier war kind. You can see there Thomas E. Root. And then for the laundry number R9693, which if you remember before goes with my uniform. And then you have these ones here, which are brass, so later war, and then also hand stamped. So Thomas E. Root, just the service number, tetanus shot, another vaccine, and then blood type and religion. So that's those right there. Here I have my M38 leggings or gaiters. These actually, for enlisted men, don't seem to be too common. You're fine wearing them or not wearing them. It's honestly just preference, because that's what they would have done at the time too, is, you know, some guys opted to, some guys didn't. My guess as to why most guys didn't is because they're just so annoying to have to put on each individual thing. I know the Marine ones were a little bit better, but the Army ones are very cumbersome and annoying to have to put on, so that's my best guess as to why guys wouldn't wear them. And then here, just a housewife sewing kit. This is a reproduction M1910. It's got 1942 date on it though. I believe the shovel itself does too, yep. And then my two packs here, I have one M1928 haversack, and then also an M43 rucksack. That's supposed to represent the M42 jungle pack. I don't have my hands on an M42, so this is the closest I could get. But this is what you see most guys landing in New Georgia, and especially the 172nd in Rendova. You see them carrying these. Pretty complex pack. You have this top pocket right here. And then you open it up, and the bottom half is basically just a giant sea bag that you can cinch together and tighten up. And then it has straps here. So these hook onto your suspenders. These come down to support the weight, and then of course these also would hook onto your suspenders. However, a lot of guys opted to just wear this in a backpack configuration that was detached from their belt, so that way you could easily take it off or on. So that's sort of the way I have it set up now. And then of course the haversack. This is also something that would suffice for a 43rd Infantry reenactor. From what I've seen, this is also just speculation, but it seems to me that the 169th from Connecticut was the most common wearers of haversacks during New Georgia. But that's just from what I've seen in photos, so who knows if that could be true or not. Not much in here right now, but mess tin in there and then some other stuff. And this one, the date is very faint, but from what I've seen, I think it's 1942. And then of course attached I have my M1 bayonet. This is just a standard, I think 12-inch bayonet instead of the super long 15-inch or something like that. That one is made by Utica Cutlery. I've shown it before in my 101st video, so I won't take it out, but that's that. Got my front seam swivel bail M1 with an original late war liner. Then over here, I have this campaign hat. This was actually also my great-grandfather's. You can see the service numbers in there. So he most likely would have worn this while he was in basic, maybe at Camp Shelby and areas like that. And you can see it has the infantry blue piping with the acorns and everything. That basically covers all my equipment. And lastly, I'll move on to the personal items that I have. Okay, so here's a lot of the personal stuff that I have that pertains to my great-grandfather's service in World War II and in the 43rd. So starting up here, it's a little bit challenging to read, but pause if you'd like to. Basically, it's a copy of the executive order that is notifying my great-grandfather that his unit would be ordered into federal service on February 18th of 1941. And then here, this is just a publicity bulletin for the 43rd Infantry Division. It talks about the different units, where they were stationed at different camps, and of course how they were split up, the commanders of the different units, so on and so forth. So that's a pretty cool item. And then over here, I have my great-grandfather's Bronze Star that he was awarded in Philippines. And then these two aren't my great-grandfather's, but they're medals that he would have been awarded, the Pacific Service Medal and the World War II Service Medal. I've shown this lighter in another video, but this was actually his. And then this is actually pretty cool. So it's it's like a chemical protection powder. It's Japanese, and inside he kept coins and bills and stuff like that he'd find scattered around. And then it's discharge paper there on the other side as well. Note all of the campaigns he took part in. And then over here is a couple post-war items, but I still would like to mention it. So it's some sort of victory ball, just a celebration of the victory in World War II. And it looks like it took place in Rutland, Vermont, where my great-grandfather lived. So there's sort of like a flyer for that, and then 2 tickets, which I think is really cool. And then of course 2 technician 5th grade patches. So at some point, my great-grandfather was a technician 5th grade, but either his role changed or he was demoted and he became a private first class by the end of the war. So I have those were his. And then this is more so from his stateside training. So I did some research, and this is actually a restaurant down in Florida. And I'm sure the restaurant was selling these, and he got them and, you know, kept it for personal sake. And then here is a soldier's prayer book. So not exactly a Bible. The idea is it just is how to conduct prayers for yourself. And then here I have my Japanese phrase book. Nothing too special, but still a really cool item. And of course, a army songbook. This was my great-grandfather's. Love that. And then here is a photograph of the A Company 172nd, probably taken in Camp Shelby, Mississippi. So right here, you can see my great-grandfather, and as well as him, my second great uncle right there, his brother also in this photo. So they were both in the same company. And then moving over here, just some more personal items for my great-grandfather. So this, a nice greeting card from Castleton, Vermont. And you can see the date it was sent was 1943, airmail, and it's got the 2 stamps for airmail, which is really cool. And then just some of his information there. Corporal, see, that's another thing, corporal right there. So that lets you know that at some point he was at Tech 5. 2 postcards here. These are actually Japanese propaganda. At some point my great-grandfather found these, and there's Japanese writing on one of them, and then he also wrote on another, which I find really cool. And then 2 43rd Infantry patches. This one is a more standard one you see during the war, and this is a more later war with the OD3 barrier. And then right here, newspaper clipping that actually goes with the Bronze Star. So if you're curious to read that, go ahead and pause. And then this, to be honest, I'd love to get more information about this. So if you have any idea what it is, please let me know. But I know for sure that it's some sort of personal effect for a Japanese soldier. I don't know if it's something maybe a wife would have made and sent with him. And the Japanese occupation currency for the Philippines. That essentially concludes my entire impression of the 43rd Infantry Division. If you have any questions or suggestions, anything like that, please comment them down below and I will get back to you on them. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I've got a lot more planned for this impression. It's definitely a work in progress, so stay tuned for future videos and updates, and also stay tuned for updates with my 101st collection. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.